If you travelled back in time 2 years and told all of your mates that you've just got a BYD Seal U DMI, they'd probably say, sorry mate, hope it clears up soon. Oh, and did you contract that from Heidi Klum's ex-husband? Sorry, that's quite a rubbish joke. No, the BYD Seal U DMI isn't some awful thing that you catch. It's a plug-in hybrid SUV from Chinese EV manufacturer BYD, and given they're one of the world's biggest manufacturers of car batteries, I'm expecting big things from the hybrid side of this. Let's find out if it's any good. The Seal U DM-I is currently the only BYD you can buy in the UK with a petrol engine. It costs from £33,300 for an entry-level boost model up to just over £40,000 for this top-spec design model. The only changes across the three available versions are battery size and power. Nice and simple. You ready for something a bit more confusing? The entry-level boost model uses a 1.5-litre petrol engine with a paltry 96 horsepower, but that's backed up by a whopping 200 horsepower from the electric motors. It's got a small 18 kilowatt hour battery, so it can do about 50 miles on paper of electric driving. Great, that's the basic one. Now, if you step up to the mid-spec one, you get the same engine, 96 horsepower, but you get a bigger battery, 28 kilowatt hours, which is good for a whopping 78 miles of electric driving on paper. So this top spec one, you think, is gonna have the big battery. No, it doesn't. It's got the small battery, but it's got two motors and a turbocharger on the petrol engine, over 320 horsepower, but only 40 miles of electric driving range. Someone make it make sense? Yeah, that's hurt my brain. That's more confusing than talking to a wombat in Urdu, but at least I don't have to remember which version gets the 360 camera because they all get one. Every single version of the Seal U gets the same amount of kit, and it is absolutely tons of kit. So you get dual wireless phone chargers, get digital dashboard, you get a head-up display, you get wireless Apple CarPlay and a massive infotainment screen. You get heated and cooled seats, you get vegan leather, pleather. You also get a 10-speaker sound system on every single version. It's like the conveyor belt on the old Generation game. That's dating me quite a lot. But anyway, let's dig into it a bit. This infotainment system is big and it can do the rotatey thing like in most BYDs, but it looks a little bit like my first infotainment system in terms of graphics. Sure, it's quick to respond and everything, and the wireless CarPlay works well, but if you do rotate that screen like this, you can't use CarPlay. It has to be landscape. And also, if you're wearing polarized sunglasses, you then can't see the screen when it is in its portrait orientation, nor can you ever see the head-up display. So if you wear polarized sunglasses, you won't get to enjoy that. But otherwise, it's sort of okay to use. Too many things are buried in sub-menus. To access some of the aircon controls, you've really got to dig into some of the menus, for example, for the seat ventilation and stuff. But that has got a lot better and easier to use than the last time I was in a BYD. Over here, you've got quite an ugly steering wheel, but it's just got some unusual buttons. You've got one which activates the 360 camera and another one that rotates that. I'm not sure why that has to be on the steering wheel. And then you've got loads of screens on the digital driver's dashboard, which is a little bit too fussy and busy for my liking. Loads of information on there though, if you want it. I've been getting 46 mpg out of this. So it's a mixed bag. I like the green stitching. It does feel solidly built and feels reasonably premium, but the electronics are still a little bit weird. Let's check out the rest of it. Sorry, I forgot to talk about storage spaces in the BYD Seal U DMI. I've forgotten the name already. You've got a massive well down here. You've got a glove box, which is a pretty decent size, to be honest. The door bins are quite large, and they're also curiously ribbed. And actually, the styling in here is not bad. It's way more interesting than quite a few of its German rivals. You've also got a sunglasses holder up here, and this one has got a panoramic sunroof on it as well, which is quite nice. But there's a weird thing in here. There's this. Half of this will cut through your seatbelt if you crash, and the other half I'm a bit scared of. It says push this up against the glass, and I think that is a glass smasher. I don't want to test that. Anyway, on with the review. As you might expect from a car measuring over 4.7 meters long, back seat space is really good. I'm 6'3" tall, that's my driving position, and look at that, loads of leg room, but there's not really much foot room. I have to kick my feet to get them under there. And the floor, although it's flat, which is good for kids getting across, is quite high, so your legs are at a bit of an unnatural bend. But, you know, just about enough headroom with this sunroof. I've got about another ½ an inch to spare there, and you can recline the seats by pulling on these fabric straps here, and then it is quite comfortable. I've got two USB-Cs down there and a little bit of storage. The door bins are an okay size. They're not very deep though, so you can't get a long bottle in. And I think this window line for kids is going to be a little bit high, so you might feel a bit claustrophobic. And these doors don't actually open all that wide. There we go, just throwing off cameraman Ollie's exposure. But at least the ISOFIX points aren't behind covers, they are just there. And the middle seat is nice and wide, and you've got an armrest here with 2 extra cup holders in it. So yeah, mostly good, just not perfect. At 4.7 meters long, this is as long as a Skoda Kodiaq or the new 7-seat Volkswagen Tayron. But the boot space is nowhere near as good as those cars. It's 425 litres. That's only about 45 litres more than a hatchback like a Volkswagen Golf. So yes, it's long in terms of boot space, but there's not much vertical space, so you're not going to get many big suitcases under the parcel shelf. It doesn't have levers for flipping down the back seats. It's got a bit of space under there for cables, but that's a disappointing amount of space. And Nissan Qashqai has got about 100 litres more than this. This does get an electric closing boot as standard though. Design-wise, I think it's a little bit anonymous from the back. While the front end has got that slight Renault Clio headlight rip-off shape, this has got a light bar like every other blinking SUV. If you want one of these to tow, the front-wheel drive versions can do 750 kilos. This all-wheel drive version can do 1.3 tons. And no, you can't get this as an electric car in right-hand drive markets. That's why it's a plug-in hybrid. Right, let's go for a drive in the BYD Seal U DMI. And the first thing I noticed when I got in this car at the start of last week was how well sorted out the hybrid system is. It's quite impressive. Quite often you get a big roar when the petrol engine in these cars kicks in. But actually this one, barely hear it most of the time. Yeah, when you properly put your foot down, it does do that slightly CVT-ish mooing thing, but is mostly refined in the engine department. I would say that road and wind noise is also pretty refined at motorway speeds as well. The real dynamic flaw of this car is the fact that it's almost too relaxed. It's almost too wafty and too floaty boaty. There is a lot of body lean in it, which is normally okay, but this has perhaps got a little bit too much, which is a shame. And it also can sometimes float over bumps and take ages to settle on its suspension. So you go along an undulating bit of road feeling a little bit sick. It doesn't really control its movements very well. Other flaws with this car: a speed limit warning bong you have to turn off using the touchscreen, and it's buried in the menus. And quite often it will think the road you're on is a 5-mile-an-hour limit, even when it's a 40, so you have to turn it off. Otherwise, the steering is so light that, again, when you get to a twisty road, it just feels really unnatural to drive fast. And it's one of the few cars where I'd recommend actually putting it in sport mode, because that gives the steering a bit more weight and just makes it feel a little bit more normal. Now, on paper, this car has a 0-62 time of 5.9 seconds because it's the fast one. It never quite feels as fast as that. I think it's because the electric motors have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. If you've got a lowish battery, you don't get the acceleration you think you're going to get. If you get one of the lower powered models, the base spec or the mid spec, 0-62 in those is about 8-point-something seconds, or just under 8 seconds. It's a family SUV, you don't need the fast one. Personally, I'd go for the mid-spec one with the much bigger driving range on electric power. But yeah, it's okay. It's a mixed bag. On this road, it is comfortable, but it's also feeling a little bit wayward. Otherwise, it's easy to drive. You've got big door mirrors. The view out the back corners is pretty rubbish, but that's part of the course these days. And yes, it's got different modes, so you can make it charge the battery off the engine. Obviously, you're meant to plug it in, and that takes a couple of hours to charge it up, but it's okay. It's okay. And with that very damning faint praise, let's head back to me for a conclusion. So, should you buy a BYD Seal U DMI? Well, it depends what you're after. If you want a plug-in hybrid SUV, the base 33 grand one has more kit at that price point than pretty much any of its rivals. Things like the Nissan Qashqai e-Power. The Toyota RAV4 is about 10 grand more like for like than this. So on value for money, this is a winner. But it does have quite a few flaws. The driving experience is a bit too wallowy for my liking. I like a softly set up car, but on twisty roads, in the bends, this can get a bit too boaty, but it's quiet and refined, and the hybrid system works well enough. But 46 miles per gallon on average is not really selling it to me massively. The boot space is 20% smaller than its rivals as well, and the rear seat space, although it's big, I just find that high floor knee angle thing makes it a bit uncomfortable after a while. So it's a real mixed bag. It's sort of a 7 out of 10 car at best, I would say. The BYD Seal U DMI, confusing name, slightly confusing car. I think BYD's electric cars are better. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you've liked this video, please consider subscribing to Motorpoint YouTube channel. Give us a like, go down to the comments and tell us whether you'd have one of these or a cow. No, the cow's over there. Do you know what a cow is? This is because you grew up in London, isn't it? On the streets. No bovine experience, no cow exposure. Stop staring at me.